Okay, Peter, my mom said that you mentioned you were afraid of forgetting memories of Laura. So I thought it would be fun for those of us who knew her and spent time with her if we would each share some memories we remember of her. It might be memories you guys know, maybe forgot, or memories you haven't heard yet. Anyways, this is just supposed to be a video journal of sorts. To pull out and extract all the memories we have of Laura and share them with you so you guys can have them too.
Hi everyone. We're so happy to have this opportunity that Holly provided for us to share some memories of our dear Laura. It's still so hard to believe, and she's going to leave such a terrible void in our family, but all the happy memories will stay with us forever. And we just want to tell 2 or 3 things that we remember about Laura, and I'm going to go first, and then Grandpa has something he wants to say. But I think we met Laura pretty much for the first time when Peter had her come for Sunday dinner when we lived on Millbrook Way. And we were quite the talking machines at the dinner table. I think all the Wiscombes talked at once, and that was something that Laura had to get used to. And she was very kind about it and didn't drop Peter because of it. And she has been very patient through the years because I don't think we've changed our ways. Anyway, that was the first thing that came to my mind. I was also very impressed with what a fine seamstress she was at a very young age. She could sew so well that she put soup cans around the pattern to hold it in place instead of having to pin the pattern onto the cloth, and everything just turned out beautifully. It didn't make any difference with her doing it that way, and by doing it that way she didn't have to stop and take all that time to pin it on. Of course, as many of you also have, the pillows and the wall hangings that she gave us at Christmas throughout the years, and those are treasured items that we just love. She did a beautiful job on all of those too. One thing that she did for us when we made these visits these past few years was to always leave a little gift for Grandpa and me on our pillows in the bedroom that we were going to stay in. And I thought that was really sweet of her. When we were building our home up here, we lived in the house at 383 East, and I was asked to be the Young Women's President. And I asked the bishop if Laura could be one of my counselors because at that time they were living in the house as well. And he agreed to that and called her, and she was just great. She was so great with the girls, and I was better in the administration stuff, but not so well with relating to the girls. And of course she was wonderful at girls' camp because that's something she really knew how to do. And I didn't know anything about camping. I don't still have a clue about camping, and she took care of all that, and I was so appreciative. So those are just a few of my memories, and Grandpa has something that he'd like to say.
One of the things that we did when we built this house is we painted down here in the living room and in the kitchen, and Laura helped us do all of that painting. But the principal thing that she did was standing right behind us, and that is the stenciling up on, toward the ceiling on the walls. And it goes clear around the whole room, and Laura did it all herself.
So thank you.
Hello, I'm sitting here in Mac and Eli's room in Santa Barbara, trying to function with a total of about 6 hours sleep over the last 3 nights. But I definitely wanted to share the memories that I have of Laura. I love her so much, and still can't believe that she won't be here with us, and that's so hard for me when I think about Peter and his beautiful family, and makes me very sad for them. But I'll try to share some happy memories that I have of Laura. I don't remember a whole lot of the time when they first were married. I do remember their first little apartment. I remember when Catherine was blessed and what a big event that was. And we still hadn't figured out blessing Kelsey yet, so we ended up blessing her after Catherine's pretty elaborate shindig. But that was probably an example of the great family togetherness and parties that Laura liked to throw. There was a time when they decided to build a house in Woods Cross, and so they for a short time lived in our basement in Centerville, and I hardly have any memories of that experience. And I think it was for actually quite a few months, so I don't know why I don't remember it at all, but I guess that means they were really good tenants. I remember when they did move into their Woods Cross house, Peter was really excited and said it had a wow factor, and what wowed me was the cute decorations that Laura put in the laundry room. I ended up visiting them more in the later years after they moved away from the Bradbury Way house. I visited them once in the Bradbury Way house. So what I remember about visiting them there is another party when they had a bunch of their High Point friends over and we played games. And I didn't take the games quite seriously enough. Laura was fine, but her friend Edie didn't think I was serious enough, and it caused a little bit of a to-do, but that was one of my first experiences playing games with Laura. And then I remember when they moved into the house that they rented from the Cecils, and I stayed in this kind of interesting bedroom in the back there. But what I remember about visiting them there is Laura made a really beautiful refinished end table to give to Linda as a thank you for letting them rent from them while they were gone. And she put in so much work and effort and love for that, and she always wanted to do something nice for people who did things for her. She in that house had received a gift of a tool table, I think a table that you'd put a saw on, and she was very proud of that. And then at the time that we lived in Virginia, it was about the same time that they moved into their house in Clemens, so we were able to visit them a few times. They came up to Christiansburg and we went down there to Clemens a couple of times. I remember one time, I'm trying to remember the details, but John and I must have flown home from Utah during Thanksgiving Day because we had not had a Thanksgiving that year. And I don't know why we didn't, but anyway, Peter and Laura, I think we came from the airport either in Charlotte or in Raleigh, and we stopped and spent the night at their house, and they gave us a lovely Thanksgiving dinner. And I again was so impressed with the beautiful decorations and coziness that Laura created in her home in Clemens. And the other thing I remember about that time is going to Myrtle Beach with her and remembering playing bocce ball. And I had never played it before, but I was very impressed with how athletic Laura is, and that she seemed to just be good at everything that she touched, and I have not an athletic ounce of anything in me, so I really admired that. And my best memories of Laura have been after they moved to Texas. I was so happy when she and Peter came to Texas, and I know during the short time that she was there, and it was just way too short, unfortunately, that I loved going to their house, and I feel like I invited myself over so often, and Peter would always joke, well, you don't have to force me to make food, because I love to do that. But Laura, it wasn't just Peter's cooking, it was the inviting ambiance that Laura had in her house. The closest thing that I can compare it to is like how I feel when I'm in the Eden house. Whenever I was at Peter and Laura's house in Little Elm, it's just a place I love to be. And I remember I showed up to help them move their furniture when the moving van showed up, but the Ward had already done it. But the house, that first couple of days before she had done anything to it, was just a pretty basic house. But it was only a week later that it totally exuded Laura's personality and became a place of coziness and comfort and inviting atmosphere that I loved to be. And every time we would visit, there would be something added. And the favorite thing that I had, or that she has there, is her grandchild room, and she would add new toys and new decorations to it almost every time I visited. And I have been trying to emulate her ability to keep recent family pictures up on her walls of all the grandkids, because I have like a few pictures of my kids' weddings and that's it. Maybe a few pictures of grandkids, but hardly anything. And she always just has the best assortment and arrangement of family pictures. But we went there for New Year's Eve. That was the last time I was able to play games and visit with Laura. We came straight from the airport, flying home from Utah again, and we were hungry and wanted to do something fun, so we went straight from the airport to Peter and Laura's house, and boy, did they put on an amazing party. And all the food was so good, and the house was so inviting, and I loved hearing about all of the wonderful experiences she had had decorating hotels and big mansions over the past few weeks for Christmas. And she just glowed when she talked about that work that she had done, and that showed a lot in the Christmas tree that she had this past December. It was amazing. I had my little tree with my few little decorations on it that are, well, I have a lot of decorations, but they're mostly just little hodgepodges of things, and her tree looks so beautiful with the beautiful designs on the top. But it was fancy, but still very inviting and cozy. And these memories make me happy, and I know that it's going to be a beautiful home still with her spirit there. But it won't be the same without her, because she'll be so missed. And I just want her family to know how much I love her and will miss her, and how much I've appreciated the welcome that you have given me into your homes there in Texas, with you being the family that we have there. And that's what I have. Thank you.
When I was about 7, the Wiscombes lived with us in our basement in Centerville while they were building their house in Woods Cross, and I have some fun memories from that time. One is that I thought Laura was so organized, and I loved that she had set traditions and schedules for her family. I remember hearing them downstairs doing family home evening, and they had crafts and all these things planned. It was like a super organized activity, and I always wanted to go down there. A few times I tried to sneak down, and she'd say, "Sorry, we're having family home evening." And I just thought that was so cool that she scheduled that time, that it was just their family, just the girls and Peter and her, that they could have that time together. Another funny memory I have is after they moved to Woods Cross, I went over to their house one time to play, and she just got home from a run. And I remember her standing in the bathroom getting ready, and Catherine and I came in, and I remember we were looking at her, and she said, "Feel my tummy, it's warm." And she let us feel her stomach because she just got on to run, and we thought it was so cool for some reason. Another funny memory is also from Centerville. is that Catherine and I would go next door to a little girl's house to play. And one time we'd just taken showers and we'd gotten ready and we wanted to go over and play. And Laura said, "You can't go over and play with wet hair." And so she said, "Let me blow dry your hair." And I think this is my first time ever getting my hair blow dried. And I felt so like old and mature and cool that I could get my hair blow dried, especially from Laura, because she seemed so much like younger and like so cool and hip and young compared to my mom, even though they're not like a huge difference. But at that time it felt like she was way younger. So I felt so cool to be able to get my hair blow dried by Aunt Laura. I also have like really fun memories of her like hand sewing swimsuits for her girls. I just thought she was so creative and fun. Just all the things that she could do. It seemed like she could do anything. Every time I looked at the border stenciling at Grandma and Grandpa's house in Eden, I thought of her sewing projects, organizing projects, all sorts of things. She just had so much talent. Seems like she could do anything, and if she couldn't, she could definitely figure it out. We definitely gonna miss her, and we love her so much.
Hi, my name is Mary Beth Hebert, for those that don't know me. I was asked to give a little tribute about knowing Laura and how much she touched my life. I met her when she came down to visit Peter. He had been working in North Carolina for a little while, and she was staying back in Utah and trying to sell the house and keep the girls in school. And Wendy was in primary at the time, and she told me her sister-in-law was coming, and would I sit with her in Relief Society? And of course, yeah, no problem. And so I got to know Laura a little bit that day, and then we traded emails, and we emailed for a little while she went back home and was finishing selling the house and getting the kids ready and getting the move ready. So anyway, Laura had some amazing talents, especially in sewing and decorating, and she was very generous with them all the time. I know I had this old rocker from when my kids were, infants in their baby room, and it had this blue cushion, back and bottom cushion on it that didn't match anything in my house at that time. And she was like, "Let's go to the store and get some fabric. I want to change your cushion so it looks good in your house now." And she did. And I was always amazed at how she could do things like that, without a pattern or anything. And it looked just as if it was store-bought. So in awe of her talent. And she helped me organizing the house too. And we just spent a lot of time together. We served in Young Women's together for a while. And when both of her girls and my boys were in Young Men, and her girls were in Young Women, so that worked out really well. I can't remember the exact year, but we rented we had a condo with 4 bedrooms at the beach that we decided we were all going to go on a vacation together. And Laura came up with a fun way that the moms wouldn't have to be constantly picking up after everybody. We devised teams with the 4 oldest kids, and they picked the rest of the kids to be on their team. And then we color coded the chart, and they made their own t-shirts for their team and decorated them. And like one team would have bathrooms one day, another would have beach duty, which meant helping Garth put up the tent and collecting towels and washing them at the end of the day. And someone would help with cleanup in the after dinner and help with dinner, whatever. We had the adults cooking, but the kids had to help and do whatever they were asked. And it just worked out to be a great vacation. So we did it for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I don't know. It was probably about 10 years. And we just had so many wonderful memories from beach trips and time together. And our kids just grew up together, and that was wonderful too. My oldest and Keisha were in the same class, and Jacqueline, and Austin, my middle son, were in the same class. And then Carson, my little caboose, didn't match up with anyone's age per se in Laura's family, but was about 6 months younger than Holly. So it just worked out really well for the ages and the kids to grow up together. I do remember one particular trip that we took, a day trip to the Biltmore Estates, and we were talking, it's a beautiful area in Asheville, and a huge estate built by the Vanderbilts. And the kids were running around on the grounds up this big hill, and we were talking about how we were finished with having children. And I said, yeah, my kids didn't have any sisters. And she said, yeah, mine don't have any brothers. And then she called the girls and she said, girls, these are your brothers, and pointing to my kids. And I said, boys, these are your sisters. And that's what they were for each other. They really enjoyed each other. Sometimes even squabble like brothers and sisters would, but that's okay. Laura was always, I think one of the biggest lessons Laura taught me is that happiness is a choice. It doesn't have to be dependent on your circumstances. You find whatever you look for, and if you look for the bad, then you'll find the bad, but if you look for the good, you'll find the good. And that has really been an important lesson for me. And I'm trying to think, we just had a lot of get-together dinners on the Sabbath. One funny Sabbath day dinner, everybody would bring over a side, and we'd cook out, and we talked about different things, and sometimes we'd turn it into a family home evening with everybody there. And sometimes the kids would lead, and sometimes the parents would lead. But one day I said, you guys always stay in your Sunday clothes. I always change as soon as I get home. And they said, well, that's the way we keep the Sabbath holy. We, tell the girls they can't do anything they wouldn't do in their Sunday, couldn't do in a dress. And we were like, oh, well, we tell our boys, get your clothes off because those are your Sunday clothes and we don't want to get messed up. And so it's interesting how we were both honoring the Sabbath in our own way, but same intention, just going about it differently. I will always be grateful for Laura and the things she taught me. She was always there in a pinch. She did a lot of sewing when things, clothes seams ripped or something. She would always offer to sew them up and for me, and because I haven't had no sewing talent and no sewing machine. So, I think the biggest thing she taught me, though, is happiness is a choice, and to take things one step at a time and make it as fun as you can make it. I'm better because I knew her, and I'm going to miss her a lot, but I know one day I'll see her again.
Hey, thanks, Holly, for putting this together. As I think about Laura, really the thing that comes to mind, them having been out of state for so long, we really didn't have a close association with them except when we saw them. But I remember how much she loved Peter, and I could see that, and they were so fun to be together, and she always hung on what he said, and she was so kind and so nice, and I appreciate that in her, and having her be my sister-in-law. And I just remember, I'll always remember that I really never heard anything negative from her, and it was always positive, and I could see that she loved her family and her grandkids and her daughters, and I kind of wish that we had been able to be closer those 20 years that they were away, and have a closer relationship with them. But wish Peter and the girls and the family our very best, and give them my love. Thank you. Thanks for putting this together. Bye-bye.
I probably first met Laura when Dad and I moved into the Kimball Mill ward. It was then the 21st ward. back about the time that she graduated from high school. I do know that I was Ruth's young women's leader for a short time in that ward. And Peter and Laura probably would have started dating while we were living in the 21st ward here in Bountiful. When I think about Laura, I think about how talented she was at making things. And here are some of the things that I have that she has made for me. I always get this pillow out at Christmas time, and I even still have it in the same plastic bag that she delivered it to me in, and I put it back in every year. She also helped me make some pillows for my living room and was able to make the edge, which I never would have been able to accomplish. And then just this week, as I was getting out a plastic grocery bag out of my closet, I thought, this is what Laura made for me, and I'm still using it, the grocery bag container. I also have a bunch of other things probably up in my Christmas decorations that she gave to me, and I really appreciate the time and effort that she always took to personalize gifts and use her talents to share with others.
One of my memories of Aunt Laura was when all of us girl cousins were younger and we were all hanging out at the Christensen home, and Laura got out all of her nail polish and painted all of our nails, and it was a really fun time for me because I didn't have any sisters growing up and didn't do very many girly things at home, but it was so nice of her to take that time to spend with us and paint our nails and help us feel a little more girly at that age.
It's hard to put into words my feelings for my sweet friend Laura Wiscombe. We go way back for over 21 years, and it all started back in High Point. When the Wiscombes moved to High Point, we all became a part of an even larger family, along with the Shields and the Heberts, and we have so many memories together of just all family dinners and hanging out or playing games. We used to go to the pool together in the summer. We would have park days. We would have beach trips. There's just so many wonderful memories of our big High Point family that I will always hold near and dear to my heart. But even with all the fun group times spent together with Laura, which are wonderful memories, I am so grateful that I got to spend a lot of one-on-one time with Laura too. Laura and I came to this earth only 2 days apart. I was born on August 3rd and she on August 5th of 1970. And we always called ourselves the birthday twins. And even though most years we would have girls' nights out or lunches or things where we would all celebrate our birthdays together, we still always found almost every year a time for Laura and I to just go out by ourselves and have our own little birthday luncheon. And I love those times so much. We would talk about our families and what was going on in our lives and our children, and I would always come away from those lunches just feeling so happy and especially just always loved by Laura. She always made me feel so good about myself. I'm grateful for one of my most favorite callings in the High Point ward was that Laura and I served, I guess we were in charge of the homemaking committee together. And so every month, that was back when we would have a dinner every month, and Laura and I would come up with a theme for that month, and we would brainstorm and come up with great ways to decorate the gym and create a beautiful atmosphere for all the sisters for the dinner. And I remember looking forward to that every month, that we would go and literally spend the whole entire day decorating, getting ready for that activity. And it was so much fun to come up with the ideas and to put all of those plans into action together. I learned so many crafts from Laura and skills of how to do things, because we all know that anyone that knows Laura knows that no one could create or build things better than she could. If there was a will, Laura knew a way to get things done. I have so many projects in my house that Laura helped me with and things that she created for me. Laura was the best gift giver. She always gave things that she built with her hands or made with her hands and that were from her heart. And I love gifts like that. There are no greater gifts to me than the things that people put their thought into and made themselves. And so I have so many treasures that I will keep forever that Laura blessed me with. But aside from all of the things that Laura created or built or did for others, when I think about Laura, I can't help but to always think about how Christ-like Laura was. I never heard Laura utter an unkind word about anyone, and she always made me want to be better. She was a great example of the way that we should lead our lives, and I always wanted to be better when I was around Laura. I will miss her terribly, and I will be so sad to go throughout my rest of my life knowing that she won't be here, but she will always be with me, and I will always think of her and be a better person for the rest of my life because of the things that she taught me. I just want you, Peter, and all the girls to know how much that we love you and how grateful we are also to know of the plan of the gospel and to know that your family will be restored and that we will all be able to see Laura again one day. I love you all.
Okay, Ella's gonna say our memory for us because I look terrible. Okay, our memory is before Laura and Peter started dating. Laura and I went to a singles activity and Peter was there and he sat behind us, and it was a basketball game at the Delta Center, which was called the Delta Center then. And I kept telling Peter to sit by her, and if I'm remembering this correctly, and she was so excited because she was whispering about him, and so I got Peter to. I can't even remember if we drove him home, but that's how I think they ended up getting together. And so I said, Peter, sit by her, talk to her and stuff, and so I guess maybe I was a matchmaker, probably not, but I don't think they had gone on a date before then. I'm pretty sure not, but that's my memory of them. And then just another one, we went to Lake Powell, and they were so excited to drive home alone together, but I had some health issues, and I had to ride in the back seat with them. And I know Laura was kind of disappointed in that, but it was so fun to see how they were charming with each other. So that's what our memory is.
Hi, Peter, kids, grandchildren. This is Cindy Davis, and I was in the High Point ward with you guys around 2008, 2010, somewhere around that. I got to know Laura through church, and then she became my visiting teacher. She would come over and kick off her shoes and curl up, and we'd just talk a lot about the kids growing up, and they were still in high school, and we'd talk about her future, going to be a grandma, and she said it was too soon, but it wasn't that long after that, not after the kids graduated high school and went on their missions or college, or both. But anyway, I went over to her house one time and brought a bunch of my old prom dresses and Shauna's prom dresses and even my first wedding dress, and told her to just please take that, and do whatever and make some kind of a pretty dress for somebody that was a little more modest, and maybe she could use the materials. I don't know if she did. It didn't matter that she did, but I just wanted to know that I could contribute to something that Laura could make or construe out of all of that stuff. And that was important to me. I know that as the grandkids grow up, that Peter and the girls will be able to see Laura through their eyes, and it will be very gratifying to them to know that, to y'all to know that you can see her and that they have learned something from her. I know I did. She was the most perfect, beautiful, humble, Christ-like human being I've ever met. I'm very privileged to have known her. I'm going to miss her. I'm sorry this has happened so soon, and I love you guys.
A fun memory I have of Laura that highlights a fun aspect of her personality involves an old motorcycle I used to have. Some years back, Laura and Peter were at our home in Farmington for a family get-together. At the time, I owned an old Yamaha motorcycle like this one, a 1978 Yamaha 400. It was pretty beat up, heavy, and smelled of burnt oil, but ran well and it was pretty powerful. Had a lot of pep. The weather was nice that day, and I was giving kids rides around the neighborhood. Laura expressed an interest in the motorcycle, and I offered to give her a ride. Well, she didn't want a ride. Laura wanted to drive the motorcycle. So I was a bit taken back and a little concerned for her safety, but I thought, wow, yeah, that's awesome. Let's do this. I'll kind of show you how this one works. So after a little instruction, she got on it, and it didn't take long, and she was off. She was a natural. She quickly figured out the clutch, the gears, the brake, and the throttle. She was moving through the gears. I learned that in addition, to all of Laura's readily apparent skills and talents, she turned out to be this adventurous, fearless throttle girl. She lived a great life, and in motorcycle jargon, she was definitely more throttle, less brake. She'll definitely be missed.
Hi, Wiscombes. I wish I had more memories with Aunt Laura, and I think most of my memories of Aunt Laura are probably more of just the Wiscombe girls, cousins in general, but I have a few memories of your house in Woods Cross. I remember like a room with a sectional and singing I'm a Little Teapot in that room. And then I remember you guys had the coolest bar stools because they were connected and they like swiveled in and out. And I remember a little park by your house that we'd walk to. And then I feel like for a time we'd do these Sunday dinners at Grandma and Grandpa's house in Eden, and you guys would always be there. And then shortly after would have moved to North Carolina, and then it became us and the LeFevre boys, which felt like, boys, and all the girls were then gone at that point, which was so sad. But I'm glad you guys came back often and would visit in the summers. And that was so fun to have you guys visit and the Shields visit. And then I feel like my trip to North Carolina in 2006, which I feel like I owe you all an apology for my teenage self, who was just, very focused on me at that time. I'm sure was a really fun visitor to have. But that was so fun because I felt like I got to know each of you better. And I remember staying at your house a couple nights and being like, let's clean the house for your mom. And we did. And then your mom got home and was so surprised and happy and took us to Jersey Mike's to get some lunch. And I thought that was really cool that she'd take us to get lunch. Anyways, and then going to the beach house, I remember it was her birthday. And we decorated before we went to the beach house, and we had all these different signs with that faux paint that you introduced me to, because you guys did a lot more crafts at your house than we did at our house growing up, which was just really fun and very artistic. And then for her birthday, someone had balloons, like tiny balloons, so we like crocheted some strand that we could stick the balloons in. I'm sure you guys remember, and decorated for Laura's birthday. And that was really cool that we were able to do that with just what was on hand. But of course, you guys being the artistic, crafty ones, came up with a fun plan. So I thought that was really cool. And then another memory I have with your mom is after my mom passed away, I remember being in Grandma Betsy's kitchen in Eden, and I don't know how many months after, it probably was just the next time that your mom visited, which could have been like 6 months after, or maybe more, I'm not even sure. But she just said, I'm so sorry I haven't said more, but I just want you to know how sorry I am that your mom has passed away, and I think about you guys. And that was so meaningful to me, to just hear that she thought of us, and I'm sure that was like an awkward, thing to bring up and kind of out of the blue, but it meant so much to me that she would just bring it up. It just felt so good to know that someone was thinking about us, and it wasn't just, in the past still. It was still like very present in her mind. anyways, I remember Aunt Laura as just being beautiful and just being very put together and just so classy. But I felt like she just had like such natural beauty, and she was never over the top, but yet she was always put together and just, you know, presented herself so well. And even just with the way she talked, I will never forget the way she talked and pronounced each of your names. She was just like so like refined and classy, and I think it's so fun that each of you girls, I think, are just so similar to your mom and know how to do makeup so well. And I associate you guys with always having earrings in and your nails done, and I just think Aunt Laura was just beautiful. And I loved that Uncle Peter, you would post pictures of her on your Facebook and, you know, say some comment of like, look how sexy she is, or I don't know if you use the word sexy, but I just love that. And I remember you guys kissing at the beach, and I will always know that you and Laura had just a marriage that involved romance and something to look up to. Sorry, I'm crying. I had typed this up and sent it to Holly and just letter form, and video form is a little bit harder, but I want you guys to know that I am grateful for Aunt Laura, and I feel like I've learned a little bit about her just from Facebook posts, and have seen how she ministered to the one and is someone to really look up to and learn from. And each of you girls are so amazing and have so much of your mom in you, that I feel like your mom I'll still see your mom in you, and that's really special. But I'm so sorry that you'll be without her.
I got to know her, though, on a really sweet personal level when I became her visiting teacher. And I walked into her home with my companion, Diane Cooper, and we could just really feel the spirit in that home. And Laura, as beautiful as she is on the outside, she's just so beautiful on the inside. And we would give the message, and Laura would always have something wonderful to add, to share. And we just edified and uplifted each other. It was great. I was impressed with what a wonderful mom and what a wonderful wife she was to Peter, and how her home was always organized and in order. And there's just so much love there. I got to serve in many capacities at girls' camp. I got to do the skits and do music, be a nurse, be a ward camp director, and Laura served in many capacities, and the most recent one was when she was in the stake, and she just made it so much fun and so wonderful for those girls. Those girls knew that she loved them. I remember she was handing out bottles of water for the hike, and they had little lemonade packets that they could also put in there, you know. It was just, she always went extra and above to let people know that she loved and cared about them. I got to go on many temple trips that we put together as sisters in the ward. It was like Elena and Mary Beth and Laura and Wendy and me and Sherry Starn sometimes, and Kim Barker sometimes, and Jen Hall all the time. And it was just a wonderful experience to ride in the van to the temple with her. And we laughed when we saw she had this little tiny purse that she used for her temple bag. And that's Laura. I mean, she just knows how to simplify and pare down and just do the basic essentials. She said, that's all I need. You know, it was really kind of funny. The little bag. Anyway, we got to go to the movies together as a group, and we saw the movie Mamma Mia. And that is such a fun movie about mothers and daughters. And the thing that stands out the most, besides dancing in the aisles and stuff to Dancing Queen with my friends, was Laura just crying and bawling when the song Slipping Through My Fingers came on, because it was about a mom who'd raised her kids and then her kids were gone. And she was so sad about that because she had her children, bing, bing, bang, boom, you know, had them so fast, and they were all girls. They were all wonderful. They are wonderful. The fact that she had them all singing together and doing things together, I mean, it was just wonderful to watch, to be part of their lives. And now it's sad I'm sad. You know, she was crying at the thought of losing her girls, and now her girls have lost her. And that makes me so sad. But thanks to the atonement of Jesus Christ and the gospel, we know that nothing's ever lost. And that even though we only knew her a short while, we'll always remember who she was and what she stood for. And she's touched every part of our house. She and Peter we begged him to house sit for us while we went on our mission. And we just wanted him to take care of the house in case there was a fire or tornado, hurricane, anything like that. But my goodness, Laura touched every part of our house. And she did so many projects, and they're all still there. And we think of her all the time. Even when she was alive and living in Clemens, and then when she moved to Texas, we missed her. We just love her so much, and we're so grateful for everything that she has taught us and done for us. I love you, Laura. And I love your whole family. Peter, and Catherine, and Keisha, and Liesl, and Jacqueline. It was so exciting to watch Liesl and Jacqueline go to Uruguay and Paraguay on their missions. And now I'm just rambling. I just want people to know what a wonderful woman Laura Wiscombe is.
I'm making this video as a tribute to the life lived by Laura Wiscombe. It's interesting because some of my earliest memories go back to the time when she and Peter lived in the basement apartment on the house on Orchard Drive in Bountiful, Utah. And Wendy and I just lived up the street a little ways in Centerville. And we used to go over to their house on Orchard Drive, and I would help them build the ceiling in their basement apartment. And it was at that time that it was very apparent that Laura had a lot of skills and had a very design-minded attribute about her where she could see the end state of how something she wanted to look would look like. And she had that natural ability to take her mind and her hands and bring those together to create wonderful outcomes for people in terms of decor and construction and many other things. Then years later, as we moved to North Carolina and Peter and Laura and their children followed us a little bit later, we got to live near them for nearly 20 years. And our kids grew up together. We spent many times having birthday parties together, going hiking together, going on adventures together. It was because we lived close together and our kids were fairly much the same age. And Laura's talents with sewing bailed me out of a lot of situations where she used to fix pants for me and sew holes in things and sew lots of different things for me, which I was always very grateful for and appreciative of. And I think one of the things I also remember about Laura is just her gentle kindness. She never said anything bad about anybody. She was always pleasant and easy to be around. People enjoyed being in her presence. And I think one thing that's very apparent, and unfortunately maybe it's sad as we reflect on humanity, but sometimes it takes someone passing away to realize the sphere of influence for good that someone's had in their life. And I think with Laura's passing away, that's become very apparent to so many people, just how much of a gentle giant she actually was and how many lives she touched and influenced and helped in so many ways, and how giving and caring she was of her time. That is so admirable. And I think when she passed away, she truly walked right in through the gates of heaven, right into paradise, unobstructed. And she is a wonderful person. She will be missed. And our hearts go out to Peter and the kids. But Laura was a wonderful person. She did so many things for so many people, was talented in so many ways, and we'll miss her.
To try to sum up my memories of Laura in 1 minute is really hard. But what I can say is that I have lots of little pieces of Laura around my house. This is this beautiful board she made where you can hang up pictures. It says, "So many of my smiles begin with you." The colors are very close to the colors that we put into Courtney's wedding decor because Laura single-handedly put together the whole North Carolina reception for me to take a little bit of the stress off. And even though she knew she was doing a favor for me, it was something that she obviously seemed to enjoy. Laura was always so willing to help us hem anything, sew anything. She was always the first to any activity we had. Whenever dinners were supposed to be at 6, sometimes she and Peter were there at 5:45, and she'd come in, turn on the light, and said, "I like light." And she'd set down their contribution to the dinner, and she would talk with me, and we would laugh. I am very grateful for my lifelong friendship with Laura, and I'm so grateful that I get to be with her in the eternities through eternal families, and that a piece of her lives in all the things that she made.
Okay, so my memories of Laura, the first one I was thinking of was when we were at the beach one summer for her birthday, and we went down to the sand and we wrote in the sand like "Happy Birthday, Laura." And then when she saw it, she went out there and she did like a cartwheel across it. And we were all like, "Wow, I can't believe she can still do a cartwheel." Another one I was thinking about was, this one's so random. I don't know why I always associate this with Laura, but for Christmas, my parents had gotten us these red, just basic stockings. And so me and my sisters wanted to put our names on them with puff paint. And I thought I was really crafty, so I did mine on my own. And Kristen had Laura do hers. So naturally, Kristen's looked amazing. And to this day, I cannot look at those stockings without just thinking, dang, I should have had Laura do mine. But also, I just always associate Kristen's Christmas stocking with Laura. And then, goodness, my entire North Carolina wedding reception reminds me of Laura because she decorated all of it. I had a lot of those decorations up in my house for a long time, including an S that was, had burlap and the kind of the turquoise color that was in my wedding. And then some of my most recent memories were when they were in their house in Clemens, and I remember talking to Laura one day, and I think this was after Jacqueline had found out about the tumor in her leg. And so I remember asking Laura about it, just how she was doing. And I just remember how calm she was. Not to take away from the gravity of the situation, but she was just calm because she just felt very assured that everything was okay. And I remember being so drawn towards that calmness because my mind is never calm and can never just hope for the best, I guess. It's always planning for the worst. And so I remember just latching onto that steadiness and thinking to myself, man, if only I could just have that much just calmness and steadiness in my life. And so that was one of the things in later years I really grew to appreciate about Laura. And on that same vein, we were walking around their neighborhood one time, and I remember, we were all on a walk and we were looking at all the houses, and I don't know, just hearing Laura's laughter in the background. She had such a distinct laugh, and it's very weird. Hi. I miss her always. She was really a second mom. I mean, I would go over there every Friday after seminary. She'd make everyone breakfast, take us to school. I associate the blue Dodge Caravan with her. Gosh, so many, just so many things. Love you, Laura.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of start my memories with the earliest memories that I have up until the more recent ones that I have of Laura. The very first memory I have is actually in, I think you guys call it your Woods Cross house.
It's that house you lived in Utah. My family came out one summer to visit, and I probably wasn't more than 4, maybe 5 years old. And I remember it was like a split level house, I think. And I remember walking down the steps and seeing you girls with your mom in the living room and just thinking like, these are my cousins, like, but I didn't know you guys at all. And I remember feeling really like awkward and shy. And then fast forward, I guess it would have been maybe 2 years, I think, later. And you guys moved to North Carolina, and I distinctly remember when you guys pulled up to our house. I think you were in a van. I can't totally remember, but I remember your vehicle pulling up to our driveway, and I remember all of you getting out of the car and running up our hill in our front yard. And I remember Courtney and I just looked at each other and we went, embarrassed. And then Courtney and I did this really weird thing where we like put our hands down to our sides because we were so awkward. We were like, embarrassed. And we're like spinning in circles when you guys walked in. That was beyond strange. We were strange kids, I guess. But I remember we felt so shy and so awkward because we didn't know you guys very well at the time. Obviously, living on two opposite ends of the country, like we weren't comfortable with each other yet. But I just remember your mom being super friendly and smiley and giving us hugs, and we were just like, who are these people? Anyhow, sorry, I wrote all my memories down because I didn't think I would be able to keep it all in line if I didn't. So time progresses and we obviously become fast friends. We get really, really close, really, really fast. And I remember, endless play dates on the weekends, after school, after church, you name it. We'd be at your house or you guys would be at our house. And I remember we would always dread when we could hear your mom coming up the stairs, because your mom was always the one who had to come be the bearer of bad news and tell you girls that it was time to go home. And I always remember just being like, no, Laura, can they please stay for like 10 more minutes? But your mom would always have to be the bad cop and come tell us that it was time for you guys to go home. And then just when I kind of reflect on those days when we were young in elementary school and middle school, the activities we would play together when we were having these after school play dates and weekend play dates and family hangouts. I remember playing a lot of Scrabble and your mom being a champion. I remember playing Phase 10 and Rummy Cube, and your mom was really, really good at those. I just remember playing like a lot of board games, and your mom was always like competitive, but not to the point where it was like in your face. Like she was just like, she had that competitive side in her when it came to board games, and she was really good at them. And then like I think about that as well, and like with her athletic side, I remember playing a lot of tetherball in your guys' backyard and kickball in your backyard. That was a great backyard. And I remember playing volleyball back there. I think you guys got a volleyball net at one point, if I'm not mistaken, and we played volleyball back there a lot. You guys might remember this, but we always tried to peg your mom on making cheesy statements. Jacqueline and I in particular would always try to call your mom out on cheesy statements, and we'd say, ew, But one time when we were getting ready to play volleyball, your mom looked at us and she goes, let's play a rip-roaring game of volleyball. And Jacqueline and I just looked at each other, and then we looked at Laura and we were like, ew, that's so cheesy. We were such punks. I'll just never forget that rip-roaring game of volleyball. I can't play volleyball now without thinking of that expression. I also remember your mom was like crazy flexible, and I remember watching her multiple times like doing splits up on the wall where she would like literally have one leg completely vertical up on the wall, and I was like mind blown at how flexible she was. I'm gonna pause just because I don't want this video to be too long real quick. Okay, hopefully this file won't be too big, and I'm trying to split it up little by little. The other thing that I really think about when I reflect on my growing up years with Laura is just a lot of family dinners and family treats, cooking together as a family, eating together as a family. Obviously, I think every Sunday that I can remember, we were eating at your guys' house. You guys were eating at our house. We were eating at the Hebert's house by the time like high school rolled around. And I just remember 3 foods in particular. Your mom made killer caramel popcorn. To this day, I have yet to ever taste a caramel popcorn that I like, because I am not a caramel popcorn fan except for your mom's. Like, if you guys have a recipe for that laying around somewhere, I wish I would have asked her for it, but she has the best caramel popcorn and I've never had anyone's as good as hers. The other 2 foods I really remember her making a lot are crepes. She had a killer crepe recipe. I loved crepes. She instilled a love of crepes in me well before I ever went to France. And I remember scones. We made scones like every Sunday, it seemed like, as a family, and they were just so delicious. And I never make scones anymore on my own, and I wish that was something I had carried on as a tradition. Something I also always really admired about your mom in the food department was she always made you guys breakfast, and we always teased her because she, would say breakfast, and we loved to be little punks who would tease. But I always admired the fact that she would and it wasn't always necessarily a hot breakfast. I think oftentimes it was a hot breakfast, but no matter what, she would make you all a morning meal, and you would all eat it together like every day, right? If I'm not mistaken. And I really admired that, because my family was just like, fix yourself a bowl of cereal, make yourself a Pop-Tart kind of thing. And I just thought that your mom did a really good job of instilling that family routine, that family tradition, knitting you guys together in unity as a family and starting your day together as a family. I thought that was really cool. That's something I want to do with my kids someday that your mom taught me. I certainly can't forget or neglect to mention, when I reflect back on growing up with Laura in my life, how affectionate Laura and Peter always were. And you're probably noticing a common trend by now that we girls would always call Laura and Peter out, and my parents too, out on how corny and cheesy they would be, and we'd always cringe and say ew about just about anything, it seems. But Laura and Peter were super, super affectionate, and were always holding hands or hugging or kissing. I remember one time we were really young. Peter was laying on the couch, just like on his back, and Laura crawled up on top of him, and they just started making out, and we were all like screaming and freaking out, and we thought it was so gross. But I like look back on that, and I really admire how much affection Laura and Peter showed in public, and especially in front of their children. I think that taught me how I wanted to find a type of person, and I wanted to have the type of marriage where someone did openly show me that physical touch and that physical type of affection often, and it wasn't embarrassing, and it wasn't something they felt they needed to hide, but it was very out in the open how much they loved each other. And that was a really important example they set for me when I was dating, looking for a spouse. Anywho, I'm now going to talk a little bit about a memory I have with my own baptism. So clear back to age 8, Laura spoke at my baptism on the Holy Ghost, and I don't obviously totally remember what was said, but I remember she sewed me a white blanket with these pretty little fringe knots around the edges, around the perimeter of the blanket, and it was a pure white blanket, and she used it as an analogy to teach me what the Comforter was, what the Holy Ghost was. And I just remember being so appreciative that she took the time to sew that for me. And then fast forward 10 years to my senior year in high school. For my senior project, I decided I wanted to learn to sew blankets just like the one she had sewn for me a decade prior. So she taught me how to sew blankets, baby blankets in particular, and she came over to our house. She walked me through all the steps. She patiently helped me every single day get those blankets done, and was just so invested and involved in helping me be successful there, and I really, really appreciated that. And I'm gonna pause it again. Okay, sorry, I'm probably going on way too long, but something else, there's just a few more memories that I really wanted to mention. One of which is after school in middle school, my bus schedule, I took the bus home after school because my mom was subbing full-time at this point. So I had to ride the bus home after school, and our bus schedule was really weird. It was such that the bus that took me back to my neighborhood also was in charge of taking several other neighborhoods full of kids back. So our bus was like, it had like a rotation schedule where it would pick up or drop off this neighborhood first and then this one, and my neighborhood was last, unfortunately. So I had to sit in the cafeteria and wait for like 45 minutes after school every day for my bus, which was not fun at all. And so I remember, since the Wiscombes lived literally 2 minutes from the school, I just took it upon myself every day that I didn't feel like waiting for the bus, I just walked to their house after school, and I was like, I'm just gonna show up at the door and say hi, because I'm like, I'd way rather wait at my cousin's house than in the cafeteria. And I was like, yeah, my mom's gonna have to come pick me up from their house, which kind of drove her nuts when I'd call her and say, hey, I'm actually at the Wiscombes, I didn't take the bus home, you're gonna have to come get me. But I was like, I'm sorry, I don't want to wait in the cafeteria, I want to wait with my cousins. So I really appreciated the fact that every single day I showed up on the doorstep, Laura never got mad at me. She never rolled her eyes. She never said, hey, your mom's going to be frustrated. Like, you need to start taking the bus home. She never made me feel unwelcome. She was just like, come on in, hang out, like, have a snack, sit down, do your homework. Like, she just treated me the way a mom would. And I really appreciated that. I also think about every girls' camp we had together where, I mean, she was right there on the front line with dozens of sweaty, tired, bubbly, immature teenage girls, and she handled us like a champ, singing all the songs, doing all the crafts with us. She was always right there, very, very involved in our Young Women's program. I also think about the fact that she was my seminary teacher for a couple years in high school. And I remember, being so impressed with how much of a morning person she was, because she was just up and at 'em, looked beautiful at 6 a.m., like when everyone else is looking like a monster. Like, she was a lady through and through. She was elegant, refined, and held herself in a very dignified way. She just had a lot of poise and etiquette in the way that she carried herself and presented herself. She was always very put together, and I was always very impressed by that. She gave incredible seminary lessons that were well prepared and well thought out, and she always had a really cool activity to go along with it on Fridays. I was so impressed with her creativity and all of the different activities she could think of, and all of the different strategies and ways she could think of to teach us the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants. And as a teacher myself, like, I know how hard that is. And so I was so impressed by the way she was able to reach us and touch us as teenagers, which is very, very hard to do. I also just wanted to mention how she's been there for every major milestone in my life, from sending me off on my mission. She was there at the airport to pick me up when I got home from my mission, because I had that unique situation where my family came to France and picked me up. So I didn't have the traditional come into the airport and meet my family for the first time. But your family, your parents really wanted me to have somewhat of an experience like that. So Peter and Laura were waiting at the Piedmont Triad International Airport for me, as me and the rest of my immediate family were walking up the terminal. They were there with the signs welcoming me home from France. She was there for my wedding. She helped put together my reception. I think she's put together, 7 wedding receptions at this point, where she has been the master behind the decorations and the look and the aesthetic of it all. And she's always done such an excellent job. And then really the last memory I kind of want to share, this is the most distinct memory I have of her in recent years, is when Jacqueline got diagnosed with cancer. I happened to be visiting my family back in North Carolina that summer of 2019. And my parents and I and Logan and Scotty, we decided to go visit Peter and Laura at their new house in Clemens. And I remember we had eaten dinner, we'd gone on a walk, it was nice, they'd given us a house tour, and we were getting ready to leave, and I just like felt it in me. I was like, I need to talk to Laura one-on-one. And so I asked Laura, I said, can you and I go and talk in the kitchen for a minute? And sorry. So she and I went in there on our own, and I did what I'm doing right now. I just bawled my eyes out to her, and I just said, Laura, I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know what I should say to Jacqueline and what I should do and what she needs right now and what she doesn't need. And I just kept expressing to her how difficult hearing that diagnosis had been on me, and how I was living my life in fear, and I was scared, and I was sick to my stomach all the time, and I could feel like that anxiety of not being able to breathe, and I was expressing that to her, and she just hugged me, and sorry, that was a gift she had, was just hugging people. She gave super firm, tight, long hugs. I will never forget that. And she just hugged me, and she didn't say anything other than it'll be okay. She was like, it'll be okay. Jacqueline will be okay. You'll be okay. She didn't try to fix it, and she didn't try to give me all the cliches in the world that exist out there for that kind of situation, but she just told me it's going to be okay. She's like, Jacqueline knows it'll be okay. We have to trust in the Lord. It will all work out. And honestly, that was exactly what I needed to hear. And from that moment forward, I was able to feel a lot of peace and a lot of comfort going forward. And we're just so happy that things have gone in such a positive direction for Jacqueline, and how she's been able to recuperate and heal from that really difficult time, and that things are going so well. Anyhow, that was the most impactful, meaningful memory that I had of her in recent years. And the last couple of years, I hadn't gotten to see her as much since they moved to Texas and that kind of thing. But I have just a deep love for her. And it's interesting having an aunt, I can't even get through this, be like a second mother to you. And I remember always being so grateful that my mom had Laura there in North Carolina, because my mom had 4 sisters, didn't live near any of them. Laura had, I think it's 3 sisters, right? And didn't live near any of them. And I was so glad they had each other as that sisterhood. And obviously, they kind of adopted Mary, Beth, and Elena into that group as well. But I just remember being so grateful to have that second mother presence in my life, and that my mom had that second, or not second, I guess, but 5th sister presence in her life, right there, 5 minutes down the road. I have a deep, deep love for Laura. I have a deep love for all of you, and she will be greatly missed.
So I am currently sitting in the Denver airport. I have received everybody's videos. I haven't watched any of them yet, because I want to show my memories without having heard the others. That way I can have them be fresh and from my own perspective. I am flying out to the viewing in the morning, the funeral in the morning, and there couldn't be a better time to sit here and reflect on everything that Laura meant to me. I have a list of memories I want to share, and I'll probably just go back to the very beginning. My first memory with Laura, I remember when I was young in North Carolina. We went to your guys' apartment when you guys had first moved in, and I remember her swimming with me with water wings or rings, whatever those things are. And we went swimming, and I remember being so confused. I had no idea who these 5 girls were, because my uncle had been living with us, and I knew he was my mom's brother. I think I would have only been like 4 or 5 at the time. maybe even younger. But I remember then when the 4 girls and Laura came, I was like, who are these people? And Peter said this was his wife. And I was like, you have a wife? And I was just blown away. I think for the first few years of my knowing Jacqueline, I thought she was younger than me because I thought all the girls had been born since they had moved to North Carolina or something. I didn't understand it exactly. Anyways, I remember that. I remember Laura had put, I think, a couch bed in one room and everyone was sleeping on that, and I remember walking in there too. It's my very first memory I have of her. When I was younger, she helped me make a Tinkerbell costume. So she had in her garage a whole lineup of fabric and everything was labeled perfectly. And she went to the store with me and my mom and we went and got a Tinkerbell costume, and Laura sewed it and it was absolutely perfect. And I still have it to this day, and my children will be wearing it. My nieces wore it for Halloween this past year. Not my nieces, my niece, Tanner's sister's daughter. And I will always have it, and I just absolutely meant so much to me. She had fabric scraps in the trash can that she was using, and I took them and I said, can I have these? And she says, yeah, they're just scraps. And I said, but that looks so exciting. And so I took them and I put them in the side tables of our house in North Carolina, and I put the scraps in there. And they stayed in there until I left for college. So Laura's fabric scraps were always with me. This is a funny one. Laura taught me how to make a bed. So when they were living in North Carolina, in my senior year, I was saying how she and I were just hanging out one day, and I was saying how I didn't want to ever make beds, and she's like, but it's the best thing ever. And she showed me how she makes hers, and she makes it really quickly, so it's not a hassle. And I was like, okay. So that was pretty cool. Every time I would come up to the Wiscombe's house, Laura would help me and encourage me to stop biting my nails, which hasn't worked. I've had times in my life where it's been better than others, but it's always just been a nervous habit of mine. But that will forever be something I remember of her, is her tapping her nails on the table. And she would always remind me, like, Holly, don't bite your nails. Remember, you want them to be pretty. And she would come up behind me and she would tickle my back like this, and she'd go down like that. And I always loved that. And she would also braid my hair when I was younger in that like spiderweb fashion. I thought that was the coolest thing in the whole world. I remember one Christmas we made these like little like wooden, we did like a cousin's camp or something for Christmas time, and we made these little wooden snowmen, and she had this big box of buttons, and I looked at each button. I could not decide what buttons to put on my snowman, and it was the most stressful thing, but it was so exciting when I finally figured out which ones I wanted. When I was in Young Women's, Laura was a personal progress leader, I believe. Anyways, she signed off on a lot of my personal progress things, and so I have in my personal progress note LW in her beautiful cursive, in a bunch of my personal things that I would have to sign off to her. And I remember there were times where I wouldn't know what to say or do, or when you're trying to think of things for personal progress in Young Women's, and she just always had the best ideas of things, and that was always really special. And this is a funny one. So when Jacqueline and I were little, we had a sleepover, and I was so thrilled because it was a sleepover with Jacqueline and I and not Kristen. I don't know why Kristen wasn't there in Cecil, but anyways, Laura came up and she was like, would you guys like a snack? And we said yes. And she goes, since it's late, she's like, the only thing I can offer you is bananas and water. And it was so cute. And Jacqueline said something like, "That's not sleepover food," or something, but I just always remembered that. I thought it was the funniest thing. I mean, we were really little, so we didn't need anything else, but bananas and water. I remember at her house, she always had clamps. Even though they're called claws, she would call them clamps. I have one, oh, right here. So it always kind of looked like these. This was the first place I ever saw them. And so they're called claws in my family, but to the Wiscombe girls, they were called clamps. And I always thought that that was so funny. I didn't understand why they were called clamps. Senior year, she helped me decorate my whole bedroom. We went and picked out blankets and pillows, and we did wall samples, which was super cool, of paint swatches. And I remember Laura telling me about the miracle of Liesel, when a dresser fell on Liesel, I think, and Jacqueline, and nothing happened. And Laura said, she's like, and I think it was angels that helped them. And that was the first time I had ever heard a story of angels. That's always stuck out to me for some reason. Another thing about Laura, I'm the type of person, and so is my mom, and I think Peter is as well, where when I am praying, my eyes, I'll be like this, but I like to, like, I'll peek open, or like, it's hard to like keep my eyes closed for so long. But the thing I love about Laura is she would keep her eyes closed and perfectly still for an entire prayer, and just had such a love and respect for the Lord in doing that. And I always was like, how does she do that? And so I started doing something where when we would do prayers at the Wiscombe's house, where I tried to close my eyes for as long as Laura would. And obviously that wasn't working, because I would open them to see if she was still closing her eyes. So that way I knew I was still supposed to close my eyes. Laura showed me my senior year. She enjoyed showing me various projects she was working on in her bathroom. She had organized all of her nail polish, and she had set up all these things, and she showed me little baskets that you can use and how you can reuse them for organization. In my house right now, that's exactly what I do. I have organized my nail polish exactly the way Laura has. I have my Q-tips in their own spot exactly the way she showed me. I just love that. When she was living at Linda Cecil's house, she taught me how to make rotisserie chicken. Honestly, quite a few meals, because I was never really, I don't know if I've just never had an interest in cooking, but Laura's always created very fresh salads, and like relatively healthy meals, I'd say. And so I always liked that. And when I went to her house, she would show me things. And I remember at one time working on their garden when they were still in the High Point house, and Laura taking things from the garden. Most of the time the garden just had compost grass on it, so I'm not sure how much you guys actually got from the garden, but I always thought that was funny. Another thing I wanted to share, so when I was 7, I went to the beach early by 3 days before my family got there with Peter and Laura's kids, and Laura said I could go. Don't mind the little airport man. Laura said I could go, and I was so excited. I guess I was being kind of crazy, because I remember she said to me, she's like, Holly, she's like, I need you to be on your best behavior. And I think I had gone down to the pool with Carson or something, and she was looking for me, which doesn't sound very far from me. And so anyways, but she came back, she's like, I just want you to know, she's like, I love you so much. She's like, if anything happened to you, that would be so sad to me. And that was the first time I remember Laura telling me that she loved me. Not that she hadn't said it before, just like the fact that she had said it so deliberately, it made me feel good, and it made me feel important, and that she really cared where I was. She always did stuff like that, where she was always deliberate and intentional with everything that she did. Laura came to all of my lacrosse games. She, at least the home ones that I remember, she was there, and I remember looking sometimes, and even if my own parents couldn't make it, Laura would be there. That was always really special to me. My senior year, she came and ate lunch with my friends. She brought me candy and a gift and knew exactly where we were sitting at lunch and came and surprised us. She helped me with my senior block. She and I stayed at that school for probably 8 hours and Mod Podged just the whole thing together. And it said, it had like a cougar and then North Carolina and Utah, but my block was at the very top of the wall, and so I had to find this ladder, and she helped me find one, and we painted everything in advance together and then Mod Podged it all. My block looked awesome, so that was all Laura. Laura gave me my first lacrosse stick. When I was starting lacrosse, I didn't have a lacrosse stick yet, and so she told me I could use, I think it was Catherine's. Sorry, Catherine, if you want that back, let me know. But because I was talking to her about lacrosse and saying how I didn't know if I should do it, and she was saying, well, Catherine and Cecil did it, and they absolutely loved it, and Courtney had done it too, and so I was like, okay. She's like, well, use this lacrosse stick and just use it for a little while, see if it works out, and then go from there. This is a really emotional one for me. When I was in 7th grade, I went to girls' camp one summer, and I could not sleep. I've always had anxiety, and for some reason, being 13 and sleeping at girls' camp was like, I don't know, just like an anxious thing for me. There was one night I couldn't sleep. I think I'd brought a travel pillow, so I wasn't comfortable in the bed. My mom wasn't at camp. Kristen and Jacqueline were at camp, but they were at the YCL cabin. But Laura was in the leader's cabin, just one cabin down from mine. Anyways, I was stuck with a bunch of first years who were eating M&Ms and Skittles all night long, and they were singing at the top of their lungs, and I wanted to sleep, and I was getting so stressed. And so I went over to Laura's cabin, and Elena and Stacy and Laura were all sitting there, and I remember just sitting there thinking, I was like, I can't sleep, and I felt so stupid because I was supposed to be like 13 and grown up, but I remember sitting there and feeling like, well, this is my aunt. Like, my aunt, she's got my back. Like, she's there for me, and she told me if I ever needed anything at camp, of course, to talk to her. Anyway, so I talked to Laura, and even after the others went to bed, Laura and I stayed up and talked for probably an hour, when I was 13, just about everything. And she came back and tucked me back into my bed, told the other girls to be quiet, and sat by my bed until I fell asleep. And that is always something that has meant so much to me. Laura also taught me how to sew, and every Halloween I have so much fun sewing our Halloween costumes, and I'm currently making a quilt with my Grandma Shields, and everything I know about that I owe completely to Laura. I learned how to serge from her. I worked on a ton of different outfits. We would make things modish. When I was a sophomore in high school, I wanted a high-waisted swimsuit, but I couldn't find any cute ones, and so she showed me how to make a black bottom. We worked on it together, and it was so cute, and I don't think I have it anymore because it's old, but I wore it for I think 5 or 6 years, and yeah, it just meant so much to me. I could go on and on. I would say that more than anything, more than an aunt, I would say that at times Laura was a best friend for me. I didn't always have someone to talk to when it came to this creative side to myself. She understood me on a level that my own mom didn't understand me on. And when I finished projects, I would text her pictures even to this day. And I think the thing that sucks is not having anyone to talk to about those things. And I mean, the whole thing is just so crazy and so random, but I think more than anything, that's what I'll be grateful for. Okay, this might sound kind of cheesy, but in this song, For Good in Wicked, when it says, "You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart," that's honestly what I think of is she's rubbed off on me in so many ways. I am so grateful for just for that, and I don't know why people are taken from us. She changed my life completely. She gave me confidence in areas. She would talk to me in areas. She would be a friend for me. Just so many things, and I'm just so grateful for that. So yeah, anyways, I love you guys. And if you ever want to talk about more memories, I could dive super deep and find so many. Oh, okay, I do have to share one more. This is a funny one. When I was, I think, a 4th year at girls camp, Laura showed us all how she can twerk. That was hilarious. She's like a dancer, cartwheel, gymnast, athlete. I think she could do the splits. I don't know what, but she could full on twerk. I have a video of it somewhere, and I will have to pull it up. I believe it's on my parents' computer. So anyways, it's super funny, and that's what I also loved about her, is you could literally be doing, she would be so stoic and calm at times, and then you'd be doing something, and then she'd be absolutely hilarious, and completely catch you by surprise, and it would be so unexpected. I feel like I shouldn't end on that note. Okay, well, because I don't want to end on twerking, I'm going to share one more. When I got my braces off, she was the very first person to text me, and she says, "Holly, I heard you got your braces off." And I said, "I did." And I was so excited, and it was so exciting to have someone be as excited as I was about it. And I sent her a picture, and she goes, "Oh my goodness," she goes, "you are so beautiful." She goes, "You just got your braces off." She goes, "And then you're going to go through high school, or the rest of high school." She goes, "And then you're going to go to college." She's like, "And then you're going to get married." She's like, "And then it's all going too fast." And it was just so cute, because she just like saw this whole picture of me and one thing of just getting my braces off. It was just cute and sweet, and meant the whole world to me. So love you guys. Love you, Laura, more than you will ever know.